So I realized yesterday I had not sent around my workload measures. I sent Connie the digital version of this, but if everybody would take one of these and pass it around, this has my numbers for 2018. And then she has it for the digital book, or for when you all print it. So most everything was in the same ballpark. We went up workload-wise from 2017 to 2018. 2017 was down from 16, but 17 or 18 was back up to about where 16 was. We still show a need of 8 full-time employees with the comp board, which is what we cleared. I think my first year in office, which would be either I think 2 increase for what they currently fund. So, which puts us in the top 30% of clerk's office as far as need from the state. So if and when they ever start funding positions again, I expect we'll be in the running to get some, but you know, it hasn't become any more apparent so far. Maybe next year's always different. So and my budget generally is level, in line with what was requested from the county. I know Doug and I were going to work on finding a little bit to get it as level as we can. So the main thing I put in, working in coordination with Donna Shackelford, who does facilities for the courthouse. Just I think with the county generally, our phone systems are in desperate need of upgrade. And I know Doug told me, I think at our last meeting, that he's been putting away money towards that. So I just wanted to get some numbers for what we knew about with our provider for the county to be working with. This is purely for long-range planning purposes. I'm not making any sort of immediate ask or anything because, I know things are tight. So.
And it's a heads up, it's coming.
We've actually been sticking money aside for a number of years, and we've got to replace. So the phone system here is 19 years old this April, and the phone system of the courthouse is the equal age. So the problem is we can't find parts when stuff breaks.
Yeah, we've used all of our extensions, and I think Donna actually gave up her phone last time we added a staff person. So
if you add a new person, they may not have a phone. So that's
or share it.
That's right.
Well, we can always get string in 2 cans.
That's right. That's right. Good string. I'll be glad to explain any particular thing, but I'm not sure there's anything. It's always fun to note concealed carry permits are up again. They've been up every year I've been in office, and by my estimate, with given the 35,000 population size, I'd say about 1 in 5 Warren County citizens has concealed handgun permit, or 1 in 7 has a concealed handgun permit on a 5-year rolling average. So always, but so anyway, our numbers are up, and hopefully it'll be good things for the county in the long run.
So you've got the clerk of court budget, you've got the law library budget, which is about 2.33%. And that's really it's the personnel costs, it's the hospital, it's the insurance, and the 2.5% raise second half of the year. And then you've got the court itself budget flat at 25,170. We're not anticipating any jump there as far as compensation of jurors or anything else.
So. Hospital, insurance, the fixed costs are, the county's feeling generally is really the only change. I'm not aware that I've asked for any additional money anywhere otherwise.
The big change we made in the last couple of years was really doing a full-time law library position, which has helped Daryl both in his office and the scheduling and maintaining law libraries so that people need access to it, they can have it.
That's right. And we had when I came into office, we had 2 part-time positions. I've converted those to full-time positions, but I used money. One, we had a judicial secretary that we used to share with Shenandoah. When Judge Hupp went full-time in Shenandoah, I took that money, made that one full-time, and then I actually took over the law library budget and those responsibilities and could use that to convert the other position to full-time. So it's been changes that I've used existing money for the most part.
Good utilization.
Do everything we can.
I just talk about 1,000 deputies to maintain control.
We have, right now, we've got 9 full-time myself, and then I had money from the state that we use. The county gets reimbursed for, you see it in there, to have 1 additional part-time person. And when I've got that part-time person in the office, I'd say we're about where we need to be. When we're short the part-time person, we're using it as kind of a rolling internship at this point with Lord Fairfax students. When I don't have that part-time person, I really notice it. But when we have that person in, I feel we have the people to handle the workload. And I'd say, the county's been very generous with me compared to what I find across the state. There's a lot of places where the localities do not support their clerks, and I've found that support here, so it's been appreciated.
Thank you.
I could use that extra person, but that part-time, I've made it work, so it's been all right.
Hopefully at some point, you can get another state position,
Yeah.
you can make it full-time.
Yeah, so with the state, but I mean, it works. It takes some work, but that's I know everybody here is doing. So
Yeah, I appreciate it, thank you. Anybody for anything else? If not, thank you.
thank you all. Appreciate it. Let me know if I can do anything.
All right.
And just an aside, I'm not expecting anybody from J&D or General District, but a flat budget for J&D and a .07 decrease of $18 in General District, so
It's not
a hell of a lot on those as well. Mr. Madden's here, so we'll bring in the county attorney.
There you go.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon, everyone. It's dry in here.
It's not outside?
Sure. Okay.
It's yours.
Oh, thank you. All right. Things have changed since I drafted my request for this, that, and the other thing. Okay. I know we've talked in the past about under comp board standards, state compensation board standards. I'm supposed to have 3 full-time attorneys in theory to handle just our felony caseload. And that was actually going to be exasperated this year because the Supreme Court of Virginia has adopted new criminal discovery rules last September. But those rules were delayed, effective date to this coming July, because of the increased workload, not only for our office, for all Commonwealth attorneys throughout Virginia. Basically, the Supreme Court said, well, we want the General Assembly to look at this and make a determination whether or not they should put more prosecutors out there in Virginia, in Commonwealth attorneys' offices. Well, this is the second year of biennium down at the state level, and nobody wants to spend that much more money because if they put all the comp board staffing standards for Commonwealth attorneys into effect, it costs something like $8 million to the state. So, the discovery rules have been delayed until July 1, 2020, at the request of the Senate Finance Committee and the House Appropriations Committee. So, we're not getting any new comp board positions based on the staffing standards this fiscal year. Now, a year from now, I may be back here and say, in theory, we may be getting 3 new people, and then the only issue we have then is, do we take them all, and then number 1, where will we put them? But that's the story I guess we'll deal with next year. There's also a distinct possibility, there's still a move afoot to give us another position based on the body-worn camera issue that a lot of jurisdictions are dealing with, and that's a hot-button issue down in the General Assembly. But I don't know today where that's going to go as far as that is concerned. It's still being argued and debated down there. Otherwise, I'm not asking for quote-unquote a locally funded positions per se or additions, because number 1, I don't know where I put them if they were to come into my shop anyway.
We can't get a phone for them, so that's the other problem.
Phone, we can't get a phone? Okay, what about computer?
We can do that.
The computer, okay. Oh, we can do that, yeah. My request, I think, is I made a suggestion that I understand that the state, House, and Senate have both agreed that there should be raises for state employees and compensation board funded employees. I think the House has said 2%, the Senate said 3%, or maybe it's vice versa. I don't know. So if that money comes from the state, obviously I'd like to have it passed on to my people. And the only other, I guess, increase I asked for this year was basically for some office supplies. We're burning through toner in our office like crazy because
It
our
costs
new,
more than the computers now.
telling it does
doesn't
cost more than computers now, certainly have learned that. And our circuit court judge is basically saying we have to print more and more stuff to file with court. So, otherwise, I don't think there are any major changes or that I was asked for in my request this year. So I'm certainly open to any questions anybody may have.
What number? I see 16. Yes, number 16, yes.
Are you running out of space, workable space?
Well, sure, yes. Yeah, I mean, basically, I don't know if you, in my shop, you walk in there, I got 4 staff members in one room, they're basically all on top of each other. And I have 1, 2, 4 separate offices in the back, and I have 2 attorneys sharing one office, and the other offices are fairly small. You know, when they redesigned the building back in '99, that used to be the old Commissioner of Revenue's office, you know, they just didn't put enough space or partitions in or what have you. And was it a historical building? If I've learned that lesson over the years, I can't touch the back door at all.
Yeah.
It's insane.
So I don't know if there's any way of making amendments or changes in my office, you know, building new walls, what have you. I'm sure that would violate some sort of rule, but I guess, you know, I'm not going to ask for that right now.
The state, like Secretary of Historic Preservation has to sign off on any changes in the building.
Yeah, I can imagine, yes. I can
Change
imagine.
the bathroom door, I gotta.
Change the bathroom door, I can imagine too, yeah.
But maybe you could get an annex across the street.
Maybe, I don't know.
I mean,
Maybe.
you gotta think outside the box.
We're
Little
right by the
paradox shit.
tattoo parlor, I guess, I don't know.
That's
What do you
what
want
I
to
was You read my mind.
Could go in, end up in the old supermarket, right?
Don't- I gotta move them out before we start tearing it down.
Does the roof leak? Does the roof leak?
Does anybody have anything for Brian? Questions or?
We're pretty busy, and things haven't slowed down fortunately. 2018, we didn't have any homicides. We're about ready to wrap up, you know, our homicides in 2017, so hopefully 2019 will be a nice, peaceful year.
Not now.
Not now?
And then you just jinxed it.
Maybe. Well,
Yeah, hit
Even if you did not.
real wood.
Not necessarily wood, that's more or less.
What is this?
Laminate.
Laminate?
Okay.
Not
Sorry,
laminate.
sorry. I'll go outside and knock on some wood then. I didn't want to.
Short distance, right here.
There you go.
Okay, if you have nothing else, guys, Brian, thank you very much.
I'll be good. We'll be in touch.
Take good care, Brian.
I'll try my best. What are we on here?
Examiner.
Oh, it's the examiner, okay. So I might see myself on TV.
That's scary.
That's frightening.
It's a raw examiner.
Thank you. Take care. We're waiting on T. That's okay. Why don't we just get started?
Yeah.
I think we're better off starting.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Yes, Corey, please. The floor is yours.
First of all, it's always a pleasure to, chance to visit with you guys, and I certainly appreciate the time that you take going through the budget. I know it's one of those things that I wouldn't want to have to do. Try to make everybody happy is almost impossible. But we tried to look at our budget situation and to adhere to, a flatline budget, and we've pretty much done that as best we can. If you look at our budget, we're relatively thin in a lot of ways. I will say, as candidly as I can, that over the last several years, we've cut just about everything we can cut without cutting people now, and still be able to have enough money to function. So in the future, it's going to be much more difficult. I mean, if we continue the path we're on, I'm really going to have to look at some other things. And I hope that you all don't encourage us to do that, because we don't have a lot of extra in our budget. But when you look down through it, for the most part, I think that if you look at the things that are there, we still have enough extra plow budget to be able to meet the needs of our constituents. We have enough travel mileage money to be able to get out there and get the job done. Maybe not do extra stuff, but get things that we can do. And then we still have a little bit of money to provide for some training and things like that for people, that as long as it's close. And if somebody comes to me and says, hey, I need to go to do this thing, we'll figure out some way to get them there one way or another. So we do, we're not trying to shortchange anything, but we are running pretty tight. I normally like to have a lot of things for you to look at as far as numbers and program offerings and things like that. I had another meeting this morning that had me running really tight, so I didn't have a chance to copy that stuff off for you. But I can tell you that basically our numbers are holding pretty true in the 4-H program. We still have basically the same number of clubs we've had, community clubs, as the last 2 or 3 years. We have seen an increase in our in-school participation. We've offered a couple different things there that were fairly new, and part of them cross over to the FCS program as well, meaning we do an in-school reality store now that we've done with the high schools. And to make a really long program summarized, basically what we do is we bring in usually juniors in high school, sometimes it's seniors depending upon whether or not the senior class has had the opportunity, and we give them a career and a family and run them through a bunch of stations where they have to learn to pay taxes and buy food and get a car and do all the different things that everybody has to do in life.
The girl in your office at our last meeting, she touched
Talked about that.
I think they also do it in middle school. Here again, the same kind of chamber used to do, but I think they've done some
Yep.
other things, and she talked about that as a good wake-up call.
It really
for other
is.
people.
And it's a program that's been around the state for a number of years. We're doing it here, and it's been very well received. The kids participate, and the teachers help out. And it's amazing how fast that you get responses from kids that tell you, you can't afford to have children. Or, they start out and they want to buy this car that's really fancy or a huge entertainment center or whatever, and they come back going, I need to trade that back in because I don't have enough money to make ends meet. But those kinds of things have given us an opportunity to reach a whole different audience with the program.
It's a good thing for those kids too. It really is.
It is.
It's life.
And that's part of it, is trying to get them to understand that, as they continue to mature, the decisions they make every day are going to impact them potentially long term. It also has them develop an understanding career choices. There are certain careers that give you a living wage, and there's other ones that you might have to work 2 jobs. So we're really proud of that one, and been happy to institute that. And it's sort of a full team office sort of program. Between that and the World of Work over in Winchester, where we had all the 7th graders from the various counties go to, we've been able to reach a lot more kids than we generally do.
Does anybody want to be an extension agent?
What's that?
Does anybody want to be an extension agent in their career?
Actually, there are a few. Most of the ones we get to do that do one of 2 things. They either grow up in the 4-H program someplace, gone to camp or done something like that, and they really enjoy that side of it and see it. We probably get a handful of kids every year that will tell you, hey, how do you get to do that? Or they're, in some cases, they love plants or farming, that kind of stuff, which that's sort of their buy-in. But we still get a few kids a year, though, especially at that, because one of them is one of those roles. We do give that out as a career. And we've had a few people come through and go, first of all, they ask you, what is this? An extension agent is not your normal term for a job. But after we explain it to them, it works pretty well, and they kind of figure out that, well, let me find out more, which makes me feel good anyway. So we do that. And our ag numbers are changing from the standpoint of we don't have as many crops and things as other places. We still do have a large number of beef cattle, produce a large amount of hay, which we had issues with this year with the weather.
Too much rain?
Yeah. Did a good job growing mud this year. Really been around the entire time. But for the most part, that's kind of the way things have shifted. We've got a lot of smaller producers that are interested in doing what I call niche target things. Either things to do at a farmer's market or direct market through Facebook or some other opportunity like that, just to supplement income they have from an off-farm job. And that opens up a whole new world for us because in general, most of those folks don't know anything at all. They come, from a whole different world, background, and we need to start with them from ground level and work with them, from what is soil.
From planting the seed, huh?
Work it up. And that's a good thing. It gives us an opportunity, if they come to us, to hopefully help them out and get back to some of the things we used to do traditionally. So those opportunities are increasing, and we just completed a 2018 situational analysis. Every 5 years, we, as a staff, do a situational analysis of the community. It's a lot like the situation, or the demographics that you all put together every year that go on the website and that kind of thing. And we go through them and try to determine needs of the community and figure out those things that we fit our mission and things that we can address. And those things that we can't, we try to ship them off to another agency or organization that might be better suited for that. But it's helped us re-outline what our next 5 years are going to look like. And then we have the things that pop up during the year, like the ticks we found, or poisonous plants, or all kinds of things that were
You
this
look
year.
at me when you say the ticks were found.
Well, you weren't the only
You
place.
can go
that-
ahead and say it now. It's all.
It's out there.
It's all over and done with.
Well, it's not. We're finding them other places, unfortunately.
I know that's what I've heard.
And that comes to another request I've got for you here in a minute, or at least a proposal. But we do a lot of different things, reach a lot of different people, and our requests for service seem to continue to increase. I can show it better to you in the information, the graphs we've had, but that kind of summarizes where we're going and what we're doing. As soon as we get a final printing from Virginia Tech on the situation analysis, I'll share that with you guys just so that you can see what we came up with. It's not much different than some other things you've seen in other places. It's all the same data. Everybody just kind of crunches the numbers a little differently. I don't know if you have any questions about the extension side. I'd be happy to answer those before I get into the other proposal.
Just the 4-H, how many localities belong to the 4-H here?
Localities?
It's not just here. Don't we have other communities that share in the 4-H center?
In the 4-H center, yes, there are 18 different counties that routinely use the 4-H center, and up to 27 that do occasionally.
They have camps, they still have camps up there.
Yeah, the 4-H center is it's in a tough spot at the moment. It's had some changeover there in a lot of different ways. They've got a new center director, boards being overhauled, some of the programs are being overhauled. But we still use it regularly, as much as we can, and some of that's for budgetary things. It costs money to use it, so we have to be able to recoup those fees somewhere. And we don't like to charge our kids for everything that we do, so we use it for camps and for some specialty contests and things like that. But there are 18 counties that it routinely serves, meaning that they have the same options that we do. But there's 27 counties in the Northern District that can use it on occasion, or we have larger scale activities where they come in and use it as well. We do have we're fortunate that we live in the county where it is because it makes it more available to us. And we do try. Our 4-H'ers and some of our clubs go up to try to do things with them to help them out occasionally. And they return that favor to us. They allow us a little more leeway sometimes than they do other organizations.
And are the other localities funding it as we do?
When it first started, yes, there were. Every county was pretty much doing it. Over the course of time, that support has shifted. Some have given more on a regular basis, some give a little less. Kind of depends on the budget situation for each county, and some it kind of ebbs and flows. It changes as the budget changes, and things happen on a yearly or every few year basis. Most of the counties that it routinely serves, those 17 or 18, are giving something to the center every year.
Okay.
And it could be as little as $5,000. It could be as much as probably $50,000 or $75,000 or more, depending upon the county. The 4-H Center holds a special place to me, and I hope that they've been able to come to you with a presentation of some sort that shows, how your funds would be used.
That'll be coming up.
I hope that they do that.
On the outside agencies list, I met the new director, and I invited him to come to our meeting, give us like a 10-minute presentation, and go from there. And like I said, my understanding that he wants to work closely with you and the whole thing, even though you all are two separate entities.
Same agency, but different people.
Right,
Yes,
right.
we're split. And I want to be as supportive as I can to them, and our whole staff does. We've actually, Tammy's gone up and done some, in the switchover, has helped with bookkeeping and several other things, and now sits on part of that board. And we hope that the fact that we have a long-term historical reference with them will help the new director be able to hit the ground running. and be able to make some contacts here locally, that maybe they would take a little time, you know, because they really need to get moving quickly.
Okay. Thank you. Anybody have anything else? If not, you can move on to your...
Second thing. And this one's, I just throw it out there for you to think about. One of the things that I found over the last couple of years, and especially this past year, we had 3 major invasive pests hit the area this past summer alone. One of those is the Asian longhorn tick, which we found here in the county in a couple different locations and some of the other counties around. It was originally from New Jersey. We can't figure out exactly how it got here. We're not sure the vectors for it. It's possible, but we also found it in Fort Valley and we found it in Middletown. You know, and not these places and people aren't necessarily connected in any way. So that was one thing. We had giant hogweed, which was identified in a neighboring county. That is it's an invasive weed that actually, that sighting, or that situation, it was actually planted. The person planted it in the 70s.
Well, what was it supposed to do good?
Well, historically, if you go back and see how it was originally used, one of the things that plantation and large estate owners used it for was sort of a security system. They put it outside windows in places that were sort of challenging for ingress and egress into a house. So if somebody broke in, they'd have to go through these weeds to get there. And if you touch those weeds, and you get any of that sap on you, and you can do that simply by just sliding your hand over them, it puts out a sap that's kind of like poison ivy, poison oak, those kinds of things. And what it basically does is it changes your skin's ability to deal with light. It makes you very photosensitive. So you get that stuff on you, and then like the next day when you get exposed to sunlight, you can, and most people do, get severe burns. So it was a way for them to, you know, they might not know who broke in last night, but they'll know in 2 days. Because somebody, if they're... And that's,
EDA needed that.
that's kind of what we hear, and what we're going to trace back is how it was originally used. It's a big, huge plant. It's very pretty if you like big, you know, statuettes kind of things. But this person planted it in the 70s, and he had, well, I guess it was about 50 plants worth at this point. That he passed away. His family sold the place to another family. They
Was
didn't.
this in Clark County?
Yes. And they didn't care about it and kind of left it. They sold it to another family.
Did they know what they had?
No, nobody knew what it was. The new owners did not like the look of the plant because it's kind of big and overwhelming. Took a picture of it, put it on Facebook, and suddenly there were all these different people had all these different theories on what it was, ways to deal with it, and they called us. And Mark Supson and I both went in and we took some samples and sent it off to the herbarium down at Tech. And
Hopefully with rubber gloves. Or
yeah, we
whatever.
used full.
Gear.
We had a good idea of what it was, so we looked like we were a hazmat situation, which
Like a
we
beekeeper.
yes. But we collected a bunch of samples, took it down, they identified it, and we went on a public education campaign to let people know. One, to stay away from it, because we weren't really sure at that point how it had gotten there. It took us about a month and a half worth of deeper dive into the situation to find out the gentleman planted the stuff. And in that meantime, we found it
Is
in
there
some
some
other...
penalty to him?
He's dead.
He's dead?
Well, that's true. He's no longer with us. But no, there's not a penalty for it. And you're not supposed to be able to get the seed, but sometimes it gets traded around at flea markets and things like that. And as
So
most
it
of us
does
know,
have
you can...
seeds? It could generate seeds?
Big flower heads. I mean, these things,
Oh.
flower heads are like this big around.
Oh my goodness, so lots of seeds.
Multiple heads, lots of seeds. Attracts every... One thing I will say was all the pollinators you could think of were all on those plants when we were harvesting them. So but the ability for it to move, it does exist.
Well, but what do those bees do to you if they sting you?
Good question. Not sure I want to have that happen. But we had that, and we dealt with that, and then we still have another major pest, and it's going to, I'm sure it'll be here because of the rail lines and things, but there was a spotted lanternfly, which is a very pretty, it's not a fly. It's more of like an aphid, but it's a multicolored bug or insect that was found, it's also from Asia, and was found in Winchester. It actually came in on some artificial rock for groundskeeping that was out of Frederick Block Company.
Wow.
Spotted lanternfly. And it was in Bucks County, PA originally. That's where it came into the country. It is doing immense damage there in horticultural crops as well as lawn and landscape crops. It basically, they multiply really well. They have little lay egg masses, which sort of like gypsy moths, except for they're more gray. They lay them profusely and very, very, on everything. Everything can serve as a vector. So it's possible for it to move. Well, it came in more than likely on train cars and these stones that were dropped off in Winchester at some point in the last 2 or 3 years. They've now found it there. They, USDA, VDAX, and Extension, we set up basically a mile square quarantine zone, and they went in, and it likes trees of Atlantis, or trees of heaven. That's its favorite feeding spot, and there are a lot of those there. So that we went in and tried to kill all those trees, kill any of the egg masses we could find, and those kinds of things, to try to stop it there. Well, at the conclusion of the summer, we now have moved the quarantine area out to a 6 by 6 mile radius. And all that means is that we don't know how to stop it. Neither does anybody in Pennsylvania where it was, or New Jersey where it's been. And with all the traffic that we have, and all the train traffic, and all those things that happen, and the Virginia Inland Port out here that brings stuff in all over the place, our risk for having that and other pests come here is quite high. Even though they do screenings and they do have inspectors and all those things pass by. With me saying that, we're finding these things are popping up more often because of our location and our interstate system and the inland port and all the people who come through to see the park and all the different things that we offer that are so wonderful. We get people from all over, and everybody that comes through has the potential to bring something negative with them. I try as hard as I can to keep up with all those things and to do a lot of that work and provide the public education when those things happen and deal with individuals as they occur. But I'm not always able to hit everybody quickly enough because I do cover multiple counties. And sometimes you're just a bigger issue than me being able to do it all by myself. So my suggestion is to reconsider going back to like what we used to do with the gypsy moth. We had a gypsy moth coordinator that ran a program. I'm not talking about a full-time position. I'm talking about a part-time position, 29, 30 hours a week, that for the large part does a lot of scouting, going around the county, helping me determine what's out there, what the risks are. We can come back and work with you guys and plan the programs or responses that we need to do to handle those things and meet the needs of the constituents in an economically efficient manner. One of the other things we had this summer that we had a lot of were mosquito issues because of the water that we had everywhere. If we could control ticks in our parks and in ball fields and all those kinds of things, and mosquitoes and around the county in those areas where that water and things are sitting, we might be able to do it more effectively if we could get somebody out there that could take the time to determine where the real high-risk areas are. And that's sort of my proposal. Have them work in our office. They would work with me and under me. What I put in was basically, a wage position with a little bit of travel money to be able to do that. And
Would it have any support from Virginia Tech?
yes, it would. And they would all go through us. We would train them the same way we do our full-time employees. It would be more of a technician position, a part-time technician, and therefore when we had in-service trainings, when we have the specialty trainings and things, they would be as welcome to go as I am for those things. And if they found an issue, they would be able to call a specialist just like I can if I'm not here. So it's, yes, that it just broadens our team. They would be just another member county funded at this point, but just another member and have all the resources at hand that we have. So that's,
what we used to do. We used to budget so much each year for gypsy moths, and then they went over to fund balance. And the other thing we're looking to do too is we're training the social workers and sheriff's deputies to go out there all the time too.
yeah, we could do that. I mean, and we do that with our master gardeners. We use those guys for outreach. We do community education programs, and you're right. The people that are out there running around, that they probably need to know some of these things, so to be aware of it.
If there's a mosquito around, it's gonna find me. I don't care. And not bite anybody.
Like
They do. They love me.
0 rating.
One other thing you mentioned, well, you didn't mention, assume that's still a problem, that's kudzu.
Yeah, we got.
Yeah, it is.
I mean,
It's
you
still,
almost watch that stuff grow,
yeah.
Right.
especially on 340. I see some of those banks are just completely covered.
Ed was working on some of it down Schoolhouse Lane area, but they cannot, they only spray the road banks, but it's got nothing but trees.
Oh, yeah.
And that's another example, I mean, that's just another good example. And with that comes the kudzu bug, which is moving along with it as we come
What
up.
does it do to us?
Well, at this point, we haven't had it come all the way this far. Our winters have been cold enough during periods to keep it away. Whether or not that continues, it's hard to say. But it, for the most part, is another one that serves sort of like an aphid. It gets on a lot of plants and it'll suck a lot of material out of them, which stresses them and makes them more open to other diseases and things that come through. But then it also, they're really nasty, because when they suck a lot of that stuff, they have a lot of frass that comes out, or the honeydew, which is always really nasty and kind of just, you don't want to deal with it.
You can see that, the kudzu on 211 up in Page County going over the mountain, it's killed the whole forest up there on top of the mountain almost, is where it's.
Yeah, when it finds its little zones and there's little habitats where it can really take off, it'll cover acre after acre and just
Yeah, 60,
float it
60,
down.
What's the long-range forecast for spring, summer, rain, hot, humid, what are you all hearing?
The last I got actually was, I was in Blacksburg last week, part of the week for a leadership team meeting and some of our in-service trainings that occurred last week. And we talked a little bit about that, and some of our researchers did. Basically what they're looking at is that we're still looking to be in wet for the foreseeable future. And that we're probably looking at a situation where it's going to mirror a little bit of last summer. They're not certain about the total amount of rainfall, because having a record-breaking year, rainfall doesn't happen every year, obviously. But above average rainfall and above average warmth together. And those two things generally lead to increases in pests, increases in disease, and all those different things that go along with that.
I'll let you know how you know whether or not we plant a garden or not, right?
I do.
What about our good friend, the stink bug?
Actually, the stink bug it's still here. I mean, and we got pockets around where people call and go out and they have just everywhere. But one of the things that we found is that people are doing a much better job of picking up things and not leaving places for them to overwinter. And that and some natural predators that have now kicked into gear and started working on, the numbers are being held. There's a couple of birds that have picked up, that will do it. Actually, guineas are really good on too if you have them, but they're a little loud. There's a few other things. There's a couple of ciliate flies and things that'll work on them now too. So it's sort of, it's like the gypsy moth itself. Once it's here long enough, things will adapt to it. And we're starting to, it's not foolproof, but we're starting to see that with that. So we're kind of happy about that. And the winters, we've had a couple of cold snaps that have done some of that. We're also hoping that, like the temperatures we had just a couple weeks ago, might have worked on the elm beetle. There's some.
Cold helps.
In a lot of cases, it does. It has to be sustained for several days, which we do that, but it can help. And in some of those cases, it's just freezing egg masses and having them shatter, so that they're no longer viable. Other cases, it's just killing the adults that have overwintered somewhere.
Is there any hope for the ash tree to survive?
Yes, the ash borer probably is its life cycle, and it's made it. It's susceptible to cold as well, so we're hoping that maybe that one's another one that's going to take a kind of a knockback. We've also got a lot of people now that have taken on treating and dealing with individual trees or little groves of trees on their property. The ashes and things that are in the normal wooded areas that we have, that you see out, large scale ones, I'm not sure there's very many alive out there now.
So it gets under the block, is it more?
It's a bore. Well, it gets in and it creates galleries, and it basically cuts off the flow of nutrient from the base of the tree to the canopy. Stops the,
Where did they come?
if I'm not mistaken, that's another Asian bug.
Or firewood or something else.
That's how we got them here, yeah. People transport, especially camping things, cutting firewood and moving it around.
You can pull the bark back, you can see all the avenues of where there's just hundreds of little pathways.
You had some of it?
No, the trees were cut down for wood.
Oh.
They have all these little, peel that bark back, and you can see where they eat.
Burn those things.
Huh?
Burn that stuff.
Well, that's kind of what we do with them now. I mean, a lot of them are going to firewood and being burned up. We were in a quarantine area, and now, well, we still are, but everybody is now. It was a challenge before where you couldn't move it outside the quarantine area, but everybody surrounding us is also
You
now.
have many ash trees? You don't have very many.
There's a few, not a lot.
Anybody have anything else for Corey? If not, Corey, thank you very much.
Thank you all for your time.
Thank you.
All right.
Randy is the OSA
Probation.
Didn't move.
Okay.
The floor is yours.
Okay, well, thank you for your time and your support in the past, and hopefully your support this year. I'm with the Court Service Unit, the Juvenile Domestic Relations Court Service Unit, the 26th District. My name's Janie Grinnan, and I am the supervisor in Warren County and Page County. Our budget consists of supplemental funds that we use to supplement the Virginia Juvenile Community Crime Control Act budget for a position, John Austin's position, who is an intensive supervision services officer. And the Court Service Unit, I'm sure you're aware, provides intake services of both criminal and domestic relation, probation services, parole services, process protective orders. Probation and parole are fairly intensive. Mr. Austin himself helps the office tremendously because in Warren County, the only state positions are one full-time probation officer and one full-time office assistant. That's it. So you can imagine that type of office with that short manpower, how difficult it is not to have another person in that office. Mr. Austin himself provides outreach detention services, which would be an alternative for the judge. Instead of sending kids to detention, he could place them on outreach detention, which Mr. Austin would see them 3 times a week, stay in constant contact with them, make sure they're abiding by the rules, and if there were any issues or any threat to community safety, bring it back before the court immediately. Monitoring services when the supervision of the juvenile might not come to the level of probation, but the court does want to see some follow-up in terms of overseeing community service, overseeing services that the juvenile or the parent is supposed to be involved in, restitution matters like that. Then the court might place a juvenile on monitoring. Tracking, which is, the judge might oftentimes in alcohol and drug offenses continue the case for a period of time, but once the juvenile drug screened on a regular basis, so that's done as well. And then there are cases of intensive supervision services when the juveniles that are on a moderate or a high level of supervision, in addition to the probation officer seeing them their regular amount of time, which is usually at least a minimum of 3 times a week, Mr. Austin would also see them an additional number of times just for community safety purposes. So it is a very critical position in our court service unit, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have regarding it.
How many kids do you have now?
Oh, goodness. You know what? I probably should have come with that figure. It really fluctuates, too. I'd say it can range from, when you consider tracking, and also diversions, because the intake does diversions to monitoring, to probation, maybe 40s to 50s. So that's a lot of youth And it's not just seeing the kids, it's also seeing the families, it's also attending FAT team meetings, it's also participating in family team meetings, because the focus is to, in addition to public safety, is to get these kids prepared to be out of the court system and be productive citizens. So it's just really an important position.
Most of the offenses.
Most of the offenses. I'd have to look up the most recent statistics, but just off the top of my head, drug, alcohol offenses, assaults, property thefts, things like that.
And it's all tied back to drugs for the most part, now, alcohol.
As you're aware, drugs impact not only our juveniles, but also their parents.
Yes.
So we're not just seeing juveniles that are affected by substance abuse, but oftentimes when you get involved in a case, you see that their parents are as well. A lot of it is tied back to it. I have to say, a lot of it is tied back to it. And it's
So not breaking the cycle.
it's difficult breaking the cycle, absolutely, it really is. It's very difficult breaking the cycle, and as you can imagine, for a juvenile, it's difficult for them to break the cycle if their parents are still involved. So,
And maybe even another generation.
right. So it's a challenging population that we work with, but this position is so helpful and so important to us. Lots of time, Ms. Malk, who's a probation officer, has to be either in court or seeing kids. You have to go down to Richmond or on probation. You have to see them in their homes, and even simple things like protective orders that come in that need immediate response. Mr. Dawson is there and available to process those. So in addition to the criminal aspect, there's that domestic relation aspect too.
So is this all county money for this?
You're all saying revenue is 35,000, so now you're about 33,000.
It's not just a job, it's a labor of love.
Yes, sir. I'd have to tell you, it's been 33 years that I've been in the system, and it's not the salary that keeps you in. It's that you're really committed. These kids, what is most rewarding is to see their resiliency. And I'd much rather work with the juvenile population than the adult population, because I feel like the sooner you can intervene, the more hope you have in changing some of these kids' lives around. And you see it when they come back years later and come visit you and everything like that. So it's there's some bumps, and sometimes it's 3 steps forwards and a couple steps back. But the hope is that when they get out of the system, they're going to be more prepared to be a productive part of the community, as opposed to continuing being involved in the criminal justice system. Now, I can't say that there aren't those that are going to have a life in the adult system, but we do the best we can. And I think that the job has gotten even more involved in terms of teaching probation officers how to use their time, not just for monitoring, but to intervene and to try to teach those pro-social skills to the kids that they have in front of them, so that they can actually practice them when they're on probation and learn. Not just punitive, but also a balance between holding kids accountable and teaching them the skills. So it's a great job. It's a very interesting job, and the kids and family we work with are people that have a lot of chaos sometimes in their life, and a lot of these kids have a lot of trauma in their lives. So.
Does anybody have anything else? If not, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. You all have a good day.
Thank you too.
So our next work session, 5:30 next week, before our normal 7 p.m. meeting, we're meeting with the school board. Mr. Drescher and I will have a kind of joint presentation to talk about school funding, and we'll see what their request is. I think they're meeting this week as a school board, I think, as well.
Meeting Wednesday, I think, aren't they?
Wednesday, yes.
Next week.
No,
Next week,
they're meeting
They're
this
meeting
week.
this Wednesday, yep.
Will it be this Wednesday for the pay study?
No, we're talking about the budget. They have a budget meeting. And well, pay study's
This week.
part of that.
We have a meeting for.
And then we're meeting, the rescheduled outside
Yeah,
agency
motion
meeting
to
is on the
adjourn.
20th. It's is on the 28th.
Tell me when you're ready.
Thursday.
28. It's the 20th.
Okay,
31st.
One thing I didn't know about the schedule, and I was, so March 26th, you're supposed to advertise a public hearing at 7 p.m. Maybe I'm mistaken, it seems like in the past, you come here at 9 o'clock in the morning to do it. Any
And
reason?
we could easily do that. If you want, Mr. Clark.
I don't know, I'm just saying, that's what we've
Yeah,
done
we
before, is
have-
all we
we
do is
we
we,
usually do it in the morning.
you know, we do is say, okay, we're gonna advertise it, boom, that's it. I don't know.
So Connie, we can adjust the schedule accordingly.
9 a.m.
And,
Same day.
I mean,
and the other thing, on the 19th is our regular board meeting, night meeting.
right,
So maybe that meeting should be at 9 a.m., not 11 a.m. That way you're not, that's a weird time on something, that one's
The 19th.
the 19th,
do it at a work session,
yeah.
we used to talk about doing that, yeah.
Do that at 9 a.m. as well?
Because March 5th would be following the regular meeting,
That's correct.
and then the 19th, do that at 9.
Yes, sir.
Night we do.
And then the
March
26th at
19th
9:10.
Mhm.
And the 26th at 9 a.m.
Yeah.
Y'all okay with those changes?
Yeah,
Okay, so on March 19th, we're gonna do what now?
9 a.m.
9
9
a.m.,
a.m. instead of 11?
yes. And March 26th at 9 a.m.
What's our night meeting?
Oh, so we're not gonna meet at 7?
What is,
No,
what's
26th.
our March night meeting?
19th is the night meeting.
Night meeting. We'll move that work session 9 a.m. on the
Yeah.
19th.
So we're gonna do 9 a.m. and then 7 also?
Mhm.
Might be here till then.
Don't tell me
Okay.
All right, we'll send out a new updated
New
sheet.
update.
And if we need to adjust something as we move forward, we need to add a date, we can always do
You
that.
get us the
that.
9,
We'll have to fit snows in between.
I get right on it.
Have at least one more missed
Yeah.
snow day, so.
Yes.
So, the March 19th at 9 a.m., is that gonna, that's gonna be the
Work session.
Work
work
session.
session, and then we'll have
7
a
p.m.
regular meeting at 7 later that evening.
Mhm.
Unless we get snowed out in between.
Okay, anybody have anything else? If not, can we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned.